The healer's name was something my throat couldn't pronounce, so I called her Doc, and she never corrected me. I was strapped to a diagnostic slab on the Verrun Accord, a relief ship that had pulled me and 4 other survivors out of the wreckage of the freighter Dakota Pride. We'd been drifting for 6 days after a pirate strike tore our hull open. I'd broken 3 ribs sealing a bulkhead breach with my bare hands and half a roll of emergency tape. I figured that was the interesting part of my week. I figured wrong. Doc was Ilvenari, tall, silver-skinned, with 4 eyes that moved independently, which used to freak me out until I realized it just meant she could read a chart and watch my face at the same time. She ran the scanner wand over my chest, humming some tune from a species I'd never heard of, and then she stopped humming. "Ethan," she said. My name, at least, she could say fine. "Hold still." "I am holding still." "Hold still." She ran the wand again. Slower this time. I watched her 4 eyes do something they hadn't done yet, all 4 locked onto the same readout, unblinking. "Doc. You're kind of freaking me out here. There is metal in your blood," she said. I laughed, because that's a stupid thing to say to a guy who just spent 6 days rationing water on a dead ship. "Yeah, I'm anemic. Low iron. Comes with the territory. Not iron." She turned the display toward me. I don't read Ilvenari medical script, but I could tell the graph looked wrong, spiking, jagged, refusing to sit still like blood chemistry is supposed to. Ferritin levels are normal. This is iron beyond normal. There is a secondary metallic signature layered into your hemoglobin structure. It should not be possible for tissue to metabolize this and remain alive. Well, I'm alive. That is what concerns me. She called in a second healer, an older one with scarring across his jaw ridge that told me he'd been somewhere rough at some point. He looked at the scan, looked at me, and said something in their language that made Doc's eyes all narrow at once. "What did he say?" I asked. "He asked if you were augmented. Military implants. Cybernetic blood filtration. I'm a cargo hauler, document. I load pallets. I own 1 gun and I've never fired it at anything that could fire back until last week." Then explain the iron. Here's the thing about that question. I didn't have an answer, not a real one, not at first. But she kept pushing, kept running scans, kept asking about my diet, my homeworld, my environmental exposure history, and somewhere around the 4th hour of being poked at, it clicked, and I actually laughed out loud, which made all 4 of her eyes swivel at me like I'd lost my mind. "It's the water," I said. "Explain." "Where I'm from, Nevada, high desert, the groundwater runs through old mineral beds. Iron-rich soil, the whole region. My grandmother used to joke that everybody out there was born a little bit rusty." I tapped my own sternum. "We don't filter it much. Never have. Been drinking that water for 4 generations. My family's worked mines and farms out there since before I was born. You drink something for 100 years, your body starts building itself out of what's around it." Doc didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she pulled up something on her console, a star map, our current position relative to the inner colonies, relative to Earth. She traced a finger along a route that would have taken most crews 11 jumps. "Your species colonized dry, hostile terrain with minimal technology for the first several centuries of your recorded history," she said slowly. It wasn't a question. More or less. Deserts, tundra, wherever. We're not picky. And you consumed unfiltered mineral water. Metal-saturated water. For generations. Guess so. She looked at the readout again, and something in her posture changed, not fear exactly, more like the look you get when you realize the math on a bridge you're standing on doesn't add up the way you thought. "Ethan. Do you understand what this means? Your blood is not simply carrying trace metal. It is incorporating it. Structurally. Your body has adapted, at a cellular level, to treat heavy metal saturation as a baseline condition rather than a toxic one. So, I'm tougher than I look. You are more wrong than you look, she said, and I decided not to correct her grammar because the look on her face told me she meant every word of it. By every standard we use to evaluate a species' physiological ceiling, this should have killed you before you reached adulthood. Instead your body treats it as fuel. The older healer said something else, quieter this time, and Doc translated without me asking. He wants to know how many of you there are like this. Like me specifically? I dunno, probably not many Nevada boys on this ship. But metal-tolerant humans in general. I thought about my uncle who worked 40 years in a Montana copper mine and lived to 91 drinking well water the whole time. I thought about the guys on the Dakota Pride who'd shrugged off radiation doses that would have hospitalized half this crew, because half of them grew up near old test sites and their grandparents had too. Doc, I think you're gonna find that's most of us. We just never had anybody run the scan before. Wasn't exactly a priority when the water bills due. She sat back. All four eyes closed at once, which I'd learn later was the Ilvenari equivalent of a long exhale. We have a saying, she said finally. Fragile hands make careful worlds. It is meant kindly. It means your kind builds gently because you must, because you break easily, so you learn caution. She opened her eyes again, looking at me the way you look at a math problem that just rewrote itself. I do not think that saying applies to you. No offense, Doc, but we've heard that one before. Usually right before somebody underestimates us. I am beginning to understand why that is a mistake. She patched my ribs. Gave me something for the pain that tasted like burnt copper, which I now understood was probably not a coincidence. And as I lay there healing, I heard her murmur to the older healer, translating without meaning to, forgetting I could hear her. Send the readings to the council. Tell them the soft, fragile species learn to drink the ground itself and call it water. Outside the viewport, Earth was 11 jumps and a few hundred light years behind me. Somewhere back there, some kid in Nevada was turning on a tap, filling a glass, not thinking twice about it. Just building himself out of iron, one glass at a time. Nobody ever tells you that's what toughness looks like. It looks like nothing. It looks like a Tuesday. Turns out that's exactly how we like it.